All right, well, welcome back to the Baseball Show. Thank you to each and every one of you watching this video. We've been blown away by the reception we've been getting. You are tuned into Nickel Press TV. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please stop what you're doing right now. Hit pause on the video, hit the subscribe button, and then resume playback of this. I'm Andy Singleton. That's Ralph Lifshitz, of course. We're going to talk 3 pitchers to you today in our continuing coverage of getting you prepped and ready for the 2017 fantasy baseball season. Don't stop leaving the comments. Don't stop making your suggestions on players you'd like us to hear discuss. Go to the player library playlist. You can see everybody we've covered to date, alphabetized, isolated on their own, so you can skip through all the riffraff and just get to the guts of what it is you want to see, or who it is you want to hear about, rather. And that's pretty much it. So with that being said, thanks to all as always. Subscribe, follow us. And if you one important thing. If you prefer to hear podcasts as opposed to watching these videos, we're on iTunes and Stitcher Radio as well. So just search for Nickel Press TV. You could subscribe, do the same whole procedure there as well. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to kick things off with Steve and Matz. We're also going to discuss Tyler Skaggs as well as Dylan Bundy. The reason for that is we've been trying to group players together based on a theme as best we can. And these are all young guys who have had major injury flare-ups in their short careers to this point. And now they're all kind of starting to turn the tide on those injuries. But who is really going to be the goods and who is not what they're built up to be? So with that being said, let's start with Steven Matz. Any other rotation, this guy might be getting a lot more hype than he does, even though he does get a good deal of hype as it is. I don't know if that's a result of being in the New York Mets organization, in a major market, whatever it is. He's got good stuff, great stuff, really, when healthy. But like I said, he's also someone people went all gaga on, and they never really reevaluated what he is and who he is. He's never been able to surpass 140 innings in a season. I don't know if that's due to a bad diet, bad genetics, or just simply bad luck. But, there's a window of opportunity for a player coming up. And when it's usually when there's still some mystique to what that guy's ceiling is. And that window sometimes unfairly closes too soon on guys. In other cases, it's left open way too long. And pigeons will make their way in and, set up their coop there. It's why we love guys like Jose Fernandez, who come up quickly and just establish that pure dominance. Conversely, it's why guys like Rich Hill remain relevant well into his late 30s, because he's just always a guy that we're willing to say his pedigree is so high, just hasn't put it together yet. I'm willing to take a flyer, maybe not a fantasy, but in real life, guys. Those guys are just going to kind of constantly resurface and recycle. Why do I mention all that with Steven Matz? Because, again, he was elevated to this extreme status immediately, and he hasn't really lived up to that yet. Even when he's pitched and been healthy, he's been pretty good, but he hasn't been necessarily as dominant as you want to kind of think he is based on the name and what he's established his reputation to be. He is a strikeout per inning guy. He's got a solid ERA, an effective whip. He's not a bad player. He's just not been a trustworthy one to this point. The upside's still enormous, but I'd rather have him as my 4th starting pitcher or greater, as opposed to my 3rd or better. He's currently the 41st starting pitcher off the board, around 166 overall. That puts him in the 14th round, which is pretty good value and upside for a guy that could potentially be better than, those numbers, that draft position at least. So, Ralph, what is your take on Matz? Because I'm lukewarm on him, and
obviously.
Yeah, I'm not overly infatuated as other people seem to be. Am I missing something?
I think it's because all of your Mets love is strictly saved up for Mr. DeGrom. So I'm gonna guess that that's what it is. I'm a big Mets fan, but certainly there are a lot of question marks, and the question marks with Matz have always been the same. It's all about health. He's had Tommy John surgery in the past. He's now recovering from a shoulder injury. You have to wonder, I know there was some elbow flare-ups earlier in the year. You have to wonder if the shoulder injury was because he tweaked his mechanics, trying to make up for, the oomph that maybe he didn't have, and things got out of whack. In terms of the production, I don't have any issue with Matz's production. I'm happy to grab him where he is in the draft at this point, especially this early in draft season. He seems like a guy to me that if he makes it all the way through spring training, same thing with his teammate Matt Harvey, that his ADP could jump up significantly by 2 or 3 rounds. This is a guy that's a high 8 per 9. K rate guy. So as you said, he's about a strikeout per inning. He keeps the walks, under 3 per 9. And, he's a 51% ground ball rate guy last season. So he gets ground balls, rarely gives up fly balls. He's also another guy, much like my buddy Kyle Hendricks, that I'm obviously very high on in comparison to, I think, just sort of in general in the industry. He's a first pitch strike guy. 64.9% of the time, Matz jams it in there on a first pitch strike, which puts him in the top 20 in baseball, at least amongst qualified starters. He's got, 4 good pitches, the fastball, curveball, slider, and change. He throws all 3 of those about equal in terms of his off-speed stuff. So he mixes it up well. I think he sequences well. I think he's a very good pitcher. I like what I see from the surface. I like to watch him pitch as well. I think, he's the best left-handed starter, obviously, in that rotation, and one of the better young left-handed starters in baseball. The big question is health. I mean, this guy's coming off a shoulder injury. He had Tommy John quite a while ago. So his Tommy John clock that I know me and my co-host in the Razzball Prospect podcast talk about quite honestly is the 7-year window on Tommy John. He's coming up to that in the next couple of years. So there are a lot of injury question marks with Matz. At his current ADP, redraft, he's somebody I'm rolling the dice on. If you own him in Dynasty, I would try to cash my chips out now before he gets hurt again.
And you know what? So that's exactly kind of, you just summed up my whole feeling that you kind of frowned on me upon, but then ended it. You trumpeted this guy, your whole spiel, and then at the very end, but I would get out of this guy if I could. So isn't that kind of saying, I like what he is, I just don't really feel comfortable with him, and I don't really trust him. You mentioned he's the best lefty in the Mets rotation. He's the only lefty in the Mets rotation currently. I ask you this directly because, as some people may know, we're in a league together that is a 30-team league. The Raz 30, and you are the owner of the Mets franchise. My question is, as a fantasy owner in a 12, 14, 16 league, whatever, is it a viable strategy to just target the Mets rotation and familiar and feel like very comfortable with your fantasy rotation?
I think on the surface it is, but they all have injury questions. So there's you're going to get a discount on them. I ended up in that league, a 30-team league, and needed a first baseman because the Mets don't really have one. So I ended up moving Matz and brought in Joey Votto, which I'm obviously very happy about, trying to have a win now competing team. But yeah, I think, in redraft, I'm not shying away from owning any of them. I've drafted DeGrom. I've drafted Syndergaard, obviously. I've gotten Matz late in drafts. But it's a viable strategy, but there's certainly question marks. There's even question marks with Familia. So it's just, how much are they going to pitch? If you tell me any of them make 30 starts, yeah, I'd take them all day long.
Yeah, he's a polarizing player, and I think we're kind of in agreement. We went about saying it in different ways, that we'd be happy with him on our team, just not somebody you want to necessarily have to rely on. And I look at like my top 3 starters on my fantasy rotations as guys I'm relying on. I'm relying on them to make 30-plus starts. I'm relying on them to be healthy and be there. One of the reasons I have a problem with Clayton Kershaw going where he's going, just because of the back stuff, but that's a issue for another day. Matz, good, just very, very, very questionable.
Risky business.
And it's important to say that because somebody else who's kind of been Matz before Matz was Matz is now going well after him in drafts, and he's now had his Tommy John surgery out of the way, and he's been, doing really well. Now, I was leading off by going to say, hold the phone. Is there another injury to Tyler Skaggs that I'm unaware of? But right now, it seems to be all systems go, which is kind of peculiar that he's being drafted as the 95th pitcher, 335th overall. That's in the 28th round. I don't know if all your drafts even go 28 rounds. So he might even be going undrafted in some of your leagues. I mean, if you're going to take a gamble with a potential ace who has injury concerns, has battled injuries his whole career, give me as many Skaggs as you can. this guy is good. And that window I talked about earlier, it's almost been slammed shut by popular opinion on this guy. He was a top 10 prospect a few years back, which is rarefied air. And now it seems like he's been forgotten about. When he started his rehab process, he was lights out. He was dominant in the upper levels of the minors. He came up, had some mixed results. Once he got to LA, to Los Angeles, which is his current team, he's still got high K numbers with good peripherals. And again, he's had spells of absolute dominance in his recovery from Tommy John, which again, it shelved him for the entire 2015 season. So this guy is just starting to come back, just starting to get his legs back under him. His biggest hurdle has been his inflated walk rate since the surgery, but historically it was never that bad. I'm all in on a guy like Skaggs, and this is a guy you can get absolutely on the cheap. So in talking about Skaggs as compared to the other lefty, we started the show with Matz. I'll take 15 of Tyler Skaggs all day over Steven Matz. Am I way too optimistic?
No, I think it depends upon the price tag. Yeah, I like Skaggs' price tag a lot more than I like Matz. I don't think that Skaggs has ever been, at least in terms of his major league career, on the level that Matz has touched. Matz has had points where he's been absolutely dominant. His ERA is low threes, throughout his career. Skaggs is a guy that he doesn't have elite control. The swing and miss stuff, it almost seems like the strikeouts are better post Tommy John surgery. I don't know if he's added a little funk. He's certainly got his velocity back, which is a great sign. The thing with Skaggs, too, is he's had a lot of injuries throughout his career. He's had control issues. And you have the Tommy John 2014. While rehabbing the Tommy John, he actually had a shoulder injury. So he doubled up in multiple injuries in his throwing arm. He's another strong lefty. So there's some big question marks. And I think that's indicative of the price tag. Now, on the other side of the coin, velocity is back. He's had somewhat subpar swinging strike rates throughout his career, but he has been getting more swings and misses. And I think that he's a good gamble to take. He's in the pitcher's ballpark there in Anaheim. He's been, what we've heard is he's unquestioned going to be at least one of the 4 starters in that rotation. So it was Garrett Richards, which is another Angels pitcher that's rehabbing from an injury. So Skaggs is a guy that I've seen him go late in drafts. I've had him in my queue a lot and just haven't been able to pull the trigger on him. Someone's taken him before me. So I certainly echo your sentiment that he's a good value this year and somebody I take a chance on. And the price tag's a lot lower than Matt's, and you could potentially expect a breakout or of him jumping back to where he was. Hopefully the K per 9 stuff throughout a full season is better than what it was in 2014. Skaggs is somebody that I'm willing to take a shot on, though, absolutely.
An interesting side note, maybe interesting. He has no relation to Boz Skaggs. Some of you may know Boz Skaggs, the musician. No relation. No, it's the whole point with Skaggs to me, and it's, you mentioned the swinging K rate stuff. It's not elite. It's not somebody that you normally would see with a guy who averages nearly a strikeout per inning. Or more, right. So to me, it just shows that he knows how to pitch. He's a crafty guy that doesn't rely on overpowering stuff to be able to generate those strikeouts, which kind of makes me feel a lot more comfortable with him coming back, seemingly to be healthy from these injuries that have plagued him in the past. You mentioned he's in a pitcher's ballpark. He is unfortunately in the hitters league in comparison to Matz, who's in the National League. But I think all systems go, especially for where you can get him. This is a guy that can be a solid contributor to your fantasy team and maybe the ace of the Angels rotation. And you could get him for pennies on the dollar at this point, at least in redraft leagues. I'm not so sure that dynasty owners are willing to give him up, but
yeah, I think it depends. I think it depends, how good, at least with the ace stuff, it depends how good Richards is and if Schumacher can potentially replicate some of his success last season. And one thing I want to say on Skaggs is I think that the strikeouts are as good as they are because of how well he uses that changeup. That's his best secondary pitch. It's probably his best pitch. So I think that's probably the reason that he's able to get those swings and misses.
Agreed. Well, another highly touted young arm that went through spells of injuries currently going right in between where Matz and Skaggs are, and that is Orioles righty Dylan Bundy, currently being taken as the 73rd starting pitcher, 274th overall, puts him in the 23rd round. Got off to a phenomenal start, reaching the bigs in his 2012 draft year as a high school arm. That just doesn't normally happen. He was 19, made it all the way from the draft to the pros. And you know what? Maybe that is actually what cost him, because it's been a disaster ever since, mostly due to injury, which, I mean, it has to kind of be considered bad luck, no? Unless there's something in the water in Baltimore, which I'm unaware of. But finally, he may have gotten himself right again, and he's still just 24. The second half of 2016, the wheels came off. He was in the rotation. He was making regular starts. He was striking out a batter an inning. The whip was good. The rest was not. Well, at least the wins were good, 8 of them in 14 starts. Now, he gives up way too many home runs, and that's likely not going to change in Camden. He's an extreme fly ball pitcher in a bad place for that profile. I mentioned the wins, but he only went 6 innings or more in 3 of those starts, which just points out how good is that Orioles bullpen, and how much of that success can you rely on him going 5 innings and getting 8 wins in 14 starts in 2017. That's just kind of that's not something I'm willing to bank on. And additionally, how much other wheels really truly are off, and how much good luck can he possibly have to balance the bad end in his career? If karma, he started out unhealthy and now he's gotten his health, is that really something you want to roll the dice with? I'm not necessarily buying in to Bundy, even if he was healthy, just the kind of pitcher he is and the park he's in, the luck he had with the win total last year. I think it's kind of a mirage, if you will. And for those reasons, I'm avoiding him.
Yeah, and I'm right behind you. I was going to start off my spiel on Bundy by saying, do not draft Dylan Bundy. I repeat, do not draft Dylan Bundy. And I think it's everything you just said. This guy, has had trouble staying healthy throughout his career. He's always had the talent there, but he only threw 109 innings last year. Gives up way too many home runs, and it's even high in terms of a home run per fly ball. And he gives up a ton of fly balls in a division where giving up fly balls will kill you. There's only one ballpark in that division, being Tampa, where you can be a fly ball pitcher and really be successful on a regular basis. I know I'm contradicting a little bit what I said with Rick Porcello, but he's giving up soft fly balls, soft contact. This guy is not giving up soft contact. He's giving up a lot of hard contact. Swinging strike rate is good, so there is some good stuff there. I mean, he will miss bats, but his ERA is going to be somewhere in the 4s. He's going to have some absolute nightmare games. As you brought up with the bullpen, if you're in quality starts leagues, this is a guy that is not going to get into the 6th all that often because of how elite that bullpen is. They have so many different options, all the way from, Britton, who obviously was, potentially the best player in baseball last year, to Givens and Brock and O'Day. They got plenty of arms there. I don't see him repeating the win total. I have questions as to whether he could ever pitch over 150 innings and stay healthy for a full year. He pitches in Camden Yards, pitches in the AL East. He's a young AL East pitcher, and he's got fly ball and home run problems. Stay away.
Yeah, stay away in redraft. And if you're an owner in Dynasty, take advantage of his inflated or resurfaced name value right now. Now would be a great time to sell high. I think we're both in agreement with that. I think that will wrap up Bundy. And we'll wrap up our pitchers for this week. We did go a little bit longer. Hopefully it was worth it, because there was some stuff that we did feel was necessary to clarify with these guys. They're all well-known, well-established, high-profile guys who have had injuries in the past and still are big question marks. And hopefully this helped to clarify some of your concerns regarding these players heading into your season. So once again, thanks for tuning into the Baseball Show. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet already, please do so now. Please leave your comments, like the video, give it the thumbs up. Follow us anywhere you're on social media, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check the player library. You can see everybody we've covered. They're all there. Nice and tidy, organized for you. See you.